Hello, good morning. Thursday the 5th, is it? Thursday the 4th of December 2025. And here we are now pushing on with this model. I want to start with answering a question. This is what I'm going to try and do with these videos. If anybody asks a question that can be answered easily, then I will. I was asked what sort of brushes I use. Well, I have a bin of brushes here, and as I mentioned in the reply to that person that asked the question, when it comes to brushes, I am an animal. I am not very good at looking after them, and I seem to destroy them. I don't know how I manage it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but you know, they always seem to end up like this one here. You can see, instead of having a point on the end, it's all sort of frayed, and a lot of my brushes sort of become two little groups of strands. So you know, they start off. Here's a new one. This is an Army Painter from Rob over at Brooks Models, and you can see it starts off nice and pointed like that sort of thing. And ends up, you know, all over the place. You know, here's another couple here. You can see, here's one I use quite a lot actually. This is a little Pro Art Series 4.0s, and you can see the end of that is sort of no longer pointed either. And that's what I've used for a lot of the detail painting you've seen on here with the engine and everything. You know, you can see a brush there. Look at the end of that. What a mess. So yeah, that's me all over. This one here seems to have stayed quite nice. This again is a Creative Models. This was a 10.0. You can see that one stayed quite nice. But yeah, I don't sort of look after them. I've not really used these a lot, these white nylon brushes, but I have been using them a little bit lately. They seem to be holding their shape. I don't know if it's because I'm cleaning the brushes in thinners or what. And I know that I'm going to get a million replies now, you know, how I should be looking after my brushes and what I should be doing. And, you know, honestly, don't waste your time, because I don't take any of it on board. I just ruin them and then buy new ones. But you can look at the state of that. You know, that really ought to be used for pigments and stuff, shouldn't it? It's absolutely had it. So there we go. This is a little set you can get here from Rob over at Brooks Models, that company there. And that's the little Army Painter set. BR7102, 7101 and 7105. So it's a little set of 3 brushes. That's quite a nice brush actually for dry brushing, that one. But I haven't used the other 2 yet. I haven't used any of them, as you can see. So there we go. So that's what I do with brushes. If you want to find out more about nice brushes and looking after them and all that sort of stuff, Luke Carswell's your man. He's very, very good with brushes. And I think what it comes down to is you need to spend the money up front and then really, really look after them. The reason I don't want to spend the money up front is because I destroy them. And maybe if I did spend a load of money, I would look after them better. But I clean them in tool cleaner and stuff, which probably doesn't do them any good. But anyway, as I say, I know a million of you are going to want to reply and say, don't do this and don't do that and don't use this and don't use that. And yeah, please don't, because I just don't, you know, I don't listen to it. Right, so moving along. In this video, we're going to look at the cockpit. I still haven't got the clear coat done. I'm going to get that done. But I also want to look at this undercarriage problem, because I think it's something we need to address now, so that anything I do, any mods we do now can be, or anything we do now, by the time we come to use the undercarriage, it will all be set and hard and dry and good and everything. But the first thing I want to look at here is the instrument panel. If you remember, if you go back to part 8, when I put the decals on the instrument panel, we had these really definite white lines around all the gauges, which wasn't a sort of criticism of Airfix. It was just, you know, it was just a little bit annoying that it was so bright. So I gave it a very, very gentle dry brush with some Tamiya XF85 rubber black, and you can see the difference. It's quite astonishing. It looks so much better. It's obviously still got a sheen to it because it's got the gloss on there. It's going to get a coat of matte varnish now. I think I'm going to give everything a coat of satin varnish for a wash. If you use matte varnish, the wash will kind of absorb into the surface and leave sort of water lines. So I'm going to use a satin varnish, and that way it'll just stay there and you can wipe it away. But any matte surface, if I put a wash on this matte paint now, it would end up sort of staying there like a stain. Whereas if I put it on the gloss, it will run into the corners and stuff. It does the same with satin. So I'm going to give everything a coat of satin varnish, and then we'll put it all together, give it a wash and everything, and then we'll deal with the the dry brushing and everything. This fuel line I've masked off the middle again, but you can see I've done those Jubilee clips on there and the hoses and everything. So there we go. Right, now this undercarriage, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the, I showed you the belts, didn't I? I think I showed you the belts in part 8, but there you go, you can see them there with their wash on and everything, having been thinned out and having the buckles opened up at the ends. So there we go. Now, undercarriage, right, let's get this out of the way. And I know I'm darting around a bit here, but the reason I'm doing this is because basically as I say, I want to get this done so that I can put it in the box, leave it for a couple of days before we come to use it, and then I know that it's good and dry and everything. We're not going to be waiting around. So the way they would have you do this, I've explained this before, but I'm just going to quickly go over it again. The way they would have you do this is you've got this sort of section of undercarriage leg here, you can see, which is on this big solid mounting. So you've got a nice solid mount for your undercarriage. Now the only trouble is with this, you're going to get a nice solid mount for the undercarriage leg because you've got the half of the undercarriage leg for, what is it, it's here, it's about 12 millimeters. So you're going to sandwich that with your undercarriage leg and you're going to get a big long contact area, which is going to give you a nice strong joint. The only problem with that is you're going to have a glue seam to deal with when you glue the undercarriage leg on. So what I want to do is get around that. And the other thing is I want to put metal inside here to strengthen it even further. So if we jump forward, Mr. Unprepared, you can see here we've got this half of an undercarriage leg hanging out as you go through. And then when we come to here, we're going to glue our undercarriage leg together. Okay, so that's going to go onto there, and that leaves this section here, as you can see, to glue onto there. So what I want to do is glue this leg to this leg and leave it to dry, and then once it's dry, cut it off at that joint there. And then what we'll basically have is 2 undercarriage legs the same length as this piece. I'm going to show you now, so don't get confused, don't worry about being confused. So we'll have 2 undercarriage legs this length, okay, and then 2 undercarriage legs the same length as that piece, but there'll be a complete circle rather than just a half. And then we're going to draw this out 1.8, and we're going to put some 1.8 rod in there, so we've got a really, really strong undercarriage leg. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. Now the other thing I've noticed is, due to moulding restrictions, you can see that on here, on this main undercarriage leg, these rings, which are beautifully detailed, are going radiated around the undercarriage leg as they would. Whereas here, because of the mould tool needs to go like that, you can see that those rings are kind of on a tangent. Okay, so they're straight. They're at 90 degrees to this face, whereas they should be 90 degrees to the angle of the leg. I'm just looking at this and wondering why they didn't mould it like that, so that this was horizontal here, and have the angles on here. But I guess then they would have had problems with this buffering piece here, so that's why they've done it that way. And also bear in mind, this is hidden behind the undercarriage leg door anyway, so not really too much to worry about. But I think we will try and correct it somewhat. So anyway, what I'm going to do first of all is get these parts off. So we'll work on one side at a time. I'll work on both sides. So where's my nice God hand cutters? So I'm going to get this here off the sprue. Get these off. In fact, what I'll do off camera, I'll get all the parts off the sprue that we need, get them cleaned up, and then I'll be back. Okay, a couple of things here. My sprue M is a little bit flashy. You can see on this leg here, we've got a little bit of flash around the edges. It's not an issue, it's not a complaint, it's just an observation. So what we need to do is make sure that we get rid of any flash that's going to bother the assembly. Also, this little nub in here, it's not to be cut off, it's actually a little bit sticking out. That's actually part of the model. So what we're going to do is just shave any flash away from there. You can see on, this one's still a bit flashy, you can see on there. So I'm just getting the knife and just running it up the side and just taking off any flash that's on there. And once you take the flash off, if you get a little magnifying glass like this, you can look at it and you can see that it's actually a little fitting. I don't know if it's a brake hose clamp or something. I don't think this kit actually has brake hoses, does it? So we might want to add them. I know the Qatari does. Qatari has the brake hoses moulded in, so we could always copy that. Okay, because we've got some flash around the edge there, but I'm not worried about that because that's on the seam anyway. So we'll just sand away here, make sure we've got nice flat faces. A little skinny stick. Okay, the other thing you'll notice, you can see on this one here I've already cut it down. This one here I haven't, so that I can show you. When you put these together, okay, they fit together lovely. Okay, so that all goes together nicely like that. Alright, then when you come to fit this leg here, you can see which is which because it's got this block on here which is offset, so that's going to go. You can see if I hold it that way up, hang on a minute, if I hold it that way up, you can see what's going on. That block is sitting in there like that. Okay, so you can see here that we've got a gap. I'm trying to point at this front end here, we have a gap, and what it is, if you slide it up on like this, you will see that it doesn't want to go. This piece here, this raised area here, just needs to be trimmed down. So we're just gonna get our knife and just shave it down. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just going to shave some material off it like that. You can sand it, but the trouble is with sanding it, it's very difficult to get it parallel and straight and everything, whereas if you cut it like this, you can see where the plastic is coming off, and then we can just go around the base like that, and those little bits that we've cut off will just shear away, just like so. Okay, and now what we should find is it'll go together a lot nicer. That's the wrong side. It's also fiddly to do, but it's even worse when you're trying to do it on camera. Is this the right one? No, that's the wrong one. Let's put those together so we got the right ones. So now that will go together like that, and you can see we've still got a gap, and we can see that we've still got a step there. It doesn't want to go over, so I'm going to grab the coarse side of my sanding stick and just come in and take some more off. This will apply however you build your model. If you do it like this, or if you do it as per the instructions, you're going to need to do this to get it to go together. Because remember, the standard kit, what you'll be doing is this will be attached to your model. You'll build this up, and then you're going to slot that down into there. So you want to make sure you don't have a gap there. Okay, right, so that's ready to go. Now we've got two choices. We could glue this together now, like that, and then cut it off afterwards, okay? Or we could cut this off now and then just glue this lower end of the leg, or the upper end of the leg actually, onto here. Now, I'm going to go for the second option. Reason being, when we cut it, we're going to shorten this slightly. What we can do after we've cut it, we can add a bit of plastic card, or we could just have it just jumped up a little bit. We're going to have to deal with, because you can see here, as I mentioned before, because of the moulding restrictions, you can see here this one is straight, and then that one is on an angle. So we're going to have to sort that out as well. So when you look at it there, you can see this one is sort of 90 degrees or perpendicular to the joining face. And when you look at it like that, you can see this is back at an angle. Okay, so on the actual leg itself, that's perpendicular, and that's at an angle. So we're going to have to add some sprugo or something and bring that round, make all that line up. So what I'm going to do is cut this off first, I think, and the seam, you can see where the seam is when you put these two legs together. You can see that the seam is right here against this raised part there. So if we cut it off so that the saw is against there, then we're good to go. So I'll get the saw out and everything, and we'll get ourselves prepared for that. Alright, so this is my little ASK saw, absolutely brilliant. You get these in the UK from Hannant's, absolutely brilliant. You can also get them from Rob over at Brooks Models, so you'll get some discount if you use my codes. So we're just going to double check that we're going to cut the right ridge, and it's, yes, it's that one there. So what I'm going to do, rather than just put it on the bench and hack through it and end up cutting an angle or something, what I do is with the fine side of the blade, I'm just going to push the, just going to check again before I cut, measure 17 times, cut once. I'm just going to butt the blade into that corner and just lightly pull it. Okay, so I'm just scoring the plastic as tight into that corner as I can, and the objective here is to leave this part the right length, and this will end up slightly shorter. This blade is 0.15 millimeters or 6 thou thick, so what we'll probably do is add a little bit of plastic card and then sand it off so that we get a lovely seam. Because remember, what we're going to do is we're going to glue this piece to that, then we're going to glue that piece to the airplane. This piece, this section will be separate, it'll have a brass rod in it and it will just slot into that hole, and this here will be our glued joint. So hope for a really nice seam, a little bit of a touch up with paint, give it a bit of wash, and you'll never know it was there. Because remember, this is going to be very visible. This is on the outside of the leg, and if you look along the side of the aircraft, it's what you're going to see. So we're going to get a really nice join. But I would much rather, once the model is built, I would much rather deal with that than have to deal with that seam there and that seam there and sanding it and everything when you've just finished all your underside, and that you're just guaranteed to scratch it, aren't you? As you can see, it's not a race. You don't need to be doing it fast. It's not a competition to see who can cut through the quickest. It's a exercise in getting it right. And don't be tempted to snap it either. We must be nearly through by now. It's not that thick. I'm wondering if they've made this from a slightly harder plastic, you know. Maybe that's why it's slightly flashy. Because this does feel quite hard. Okay, so now we've got that cut off. That is ready. That can be glued onto there like that. So we can line all those ridges up. It's funny actually, because when you look on here, on this side, it's perpendicular. On that side, they've continued with the angle. It's weird. We'll get that sorted. And as you can see on the end, we've got a nice flat face. So what we're going to do then is glue this to this. Okay, so we'll have that there. And then this will be attached to this, he says, just like that. And then what we're going to do is have a brass rod sticking out of there. We'll have a hole drilled in there, and we'll come along and we'll slot them together, just like that. That'll be our undercarriage, and it'll be nice and straight because of the brass rod. So what I'm going to do is add a piece of plastic card to the end of here, I think. I'm just going to quickly sand that. So I'm going to add a thin piece of plastic card to that and then glue that onto there. You can see if I line all this up properly here, you can see this end is slightly short. Now we can actually push that further down if you want to, but if we fit it as per the instructions, then That's how it's going to look. You can see that we've got a very small step. This side is slightly shorter than this side. So we'll add a piece of plastic card, and that's because of the width of the blade. Alright, so I'm going to do the same on the other one. I'll glue some plastic card on there, let it dry, and then I'll come back and we'll get these upper assemblies glued together, and then we can just put them all to one side and let them go hard. You've probably all done it before. You glue a pair of legs together like this, you leave it for an hour, and you think, right, I'm going to come along and I'm going to drill down in here to get my brass rod in, and then you discover that what you've just done is push the parts apart. Ask me how I know. I've just noticed that because of this locating lug here, they've reduced the diameter, and what will happen there is it will push the drill off center. So what I'm going to do is remove that locating lug, so there's no need for us to clean it up earlier at all. So we'll just remove that, sand the end of this flat, and then I'm going to get a little round file. I had one here, where's it gone? I did have a little rat tail file here, there it is, I did put it away. Tidy boy. And what I'm going to do is just file that out to get rid of that reduced diameter, because what that will do is push the drill off center. Okay, so we're just going to open that out like that. And then when we put those together, you can see we've got a round hole rather than having a hole offset to one side. Okay, so basically it doesn't really matter there. I mean, I think, what is the diameter here? I was going to use 1.8 diameter rod. Looks like I may have to use 2 and not go so deep. So when we get down to here, it's only 3.38. Yeah, that's 2.3 there. Yeah, we may have to use, we'll probably use 2mm rod, and if we don't glue it at the top, that'll give us a bit of flexibility to line the legs up perfectly as well, so that'll work out well. Okie dokie, right, back in a bit. Right, so we've got the plastic card glue on. I've trimmed this one with a little god hand cutters. This is the beauty of them, they could go right up to the edge, just like so. So we'll just trim that down, just like that. Job done. And then that can either go in your sprue goo, or you can just put it in the bin. Very quick little wipe over. That one's going to go with that one, and this one's going to go with this one. Okay, very quick little wipe over, and then all I'm going to do is with a knife, I'm hoping the glue is dry enough, is just come with a knife and just cut a little section out of there, just to help the drill. Doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, and then we'll do the same on the other one. There's something else I mustn't forget to tell you as well. Show you, tell you, whatever. If you remember, I cut a lug off of here. Okay, I've glued that into here, into this end. The piece I cut off, you can see it's good because on here you had a massive hole, or a massive half hole, for that to go into. So I've cut it, glued it in. Just sand the end flush. Okay, and that gives us a hole again rather than a great big hole. Alright, so now this is going to glue onto here. That's the wrong one. This is going to glue onto here. Okay, so that's going to go in there like that. Okay, and we've got this lug on here which is going to help us line everything up. And if we just line up those features on the sides, then what we can do here, I'm going to use the ordinary extra thin, actually not the quick setting. I think the ordinary gives you a stronger bond. I've got some I've got a haul coming in from Brooks Models with some new Tamiya extra thin to try out. So we'll see what that's like. You can see the glue all oozing out of there. Now that's why I glue my clamping first. But here I'm not worried, because what I'm more interested in here is, rather than a tidy joint, I'm more interested in a strong joint. And we're going to put some cement down in there. As you can see, plenty of cement. Get it all nicely glued together. It's going to get a little clamping there. There we are. So we'll grab a couple of clothes pegs. I hope I can get 2 on there. Get one down and make sure it's lined up. You don't want them to be like this. You want them to be forming a circle. That's one of the risks with clamping stuff. It can move while it's clamped. I'm just wondering if I can get a clamp on. Yes, I can. So I can get one onto there. And then I can get one onto there on the top. In fact, I will use, if I can get to them, I will use a bulldog clamp. Like so. Again, making sure they stay level. What I'll do is come back and look in 10 minutes, and if they have moved off, then you can just get a pair of tweezers on the side and just use them as a pair of pliers and pull them back in. And then we'll do the same on this one. So we get that together like that. Okay, and then we'll put plenty of cement in there. Let that wick around. Do the same one here. Plenty in there. Get a really tough welded joint. Push my glasses up so I can see what I'm doing. What I was saying about leveling them up with tweezers is like this. You get a pair of tweezers like so, and you can squeeze it like that, and that sort of pulls everything level together. And we can get a bulldog clamp on the end, like so, and then we can get a normal clothes peg on that end like so, and that will keep everything nicely together. So we're going to leave that for about 10 minutes just to gel off, and then come back and see that they're sorted. Now these legs, you can't get these mixed up really, because you've got these. You can get them mixed up because I've just put the left with the right. You've got these lugs sticking out here, so keep them lined up. And while I think of it, there's something else I want to say as well. I've noticed on here, when you look at this being assembled, when you look at this, you can see on here, they have these legs sticking out. And then they're telling you this bulkhead is going to sit on those legs. Now, when you look at these parts, they don't have the legs sticking out. That's where they would come out from there. And I was looking to see if I had short shots, and I don't. So obviously what it is, it's something to do with the tool design CAD. Hasn't agreed with the CAD they've used for the instructions. Now I've had a look at the kit and the way it goes together. It doesn't matter one bean. It's just obviously a... It was the same with the stall, wasn't it? There was one area where it looked like something was recessed on the instructions and it wasn't recessed on the plastic, and it affected the way it went together, and then it didn't, and blah blah blah. So yeah, bear that in mind. Right, so on the subject of the stall, well, I do need to get it back on the bench. I completely forgotten about it, and I know a lot of you want to see it built. And I've got another one to do as well with the inside the armour crane conversion. And I've just ordered the new... I'm going to cut this lug off of here because it's causing me alignment problems. I've just ordered the new Edward photo etch for it. So we'll have a look at that as well. We can look at a comparison of using photo etch grills rather than the 3D printed ones. I know the 3D printed ones are extremely flimsy, but they are beautiful. Okay, so there we go, that's going in there, that's going in there. Right. So I'm going to put some on this end. You might want to consider doing that on your kit as well. Cut those lugs off. They do cause an issue with alignment. I thought I noticed I had an issue when I dummy built them first time round. But what it was doing is actually stopping this end of the leg going like that. It was actually forcing it to go like that. We had the same issue, didn't we, with the... That was with the cannon cover in the cockpit. We're supposed to be doing the cockpit, aren't we? But we're not. We're doing this. I'm doing this purely if you've just tuned in, you wonder why I'm doing this now. It's because I want to make sure these get good length of time to harden before we start drilling them to put brass legs in and stuff. And it's going to be a good, I'd say 2 or 3 days before we need to even look at those bits. It's going to be much longer than that before we need to look at these bits. Alright, we'll grab another bulldog clamp and stick it on that in there. Again, we'll look at those in 10 minutes, see if they have any alignment issues. We'll just have a look at this one. Does this lug cause alignment issues? No, you see this one's, yeah, no, that one's stopping us going lengthways. So sometimes these location lugs can be a real pain. So I'm going to cut that off of there. Just like so. Just like that, right. Okay, and then we'll get some cement in there, get some in there. And there we go. Check it's all lining up nicely. And then what we'll do here, we'll start with a file, get it sort of rounded up so it's centered. The trouble is, a drill will always follow, unless it's, well, even if it is clamped in a machine, a drill will often just follow the old hole. So if you have got a hole here which is off center, you will end up with a hole off center, whatever size drill you use. So bear that in mind. It's worth remembering. Do you know what? It's getting near lunchtime. And I really, you know, sometimes when you really want something, I really fancy a pizza. And I don't generally eat at lunchtimes. There we are. So we can get a bulldog clamp on there. And we'll get a clothes peg on there. And we're going to leave those for 10 minutes and then we're going to fit these little bits here however they go on. See you back in a bit. Okay, so there's our legs glued together. I've put a little bit of plastic card on these sides because there was a little step there on the top, so I'm let that go hard and that can all be sanded out and we can make sure we get a nice square joint. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that. I might see if I can make something with a 2mm bore with a flat face that I can put in and turn it so it sort of squares them up. How to make sure these ends are square, because you can keep sanding them, but of course you can keep putting angles on them. But we shall see. Right, what are we going to do next? So we've got those legs all glued together, so they're going to be left to dry now. It was lucky I said I'd look after 10 minutes because I hadn't noticed. We've got this little lug on here that's off center. So of course when I clamped it, what it did, it sort of pushed and they ended up literally way over. So yeah, I had to sort of put some glue in, soften them up and get them back. So that was nearly a disaster. Right, so of course the other thing you could do if you wanted to is cut this part off here, but then you'd only have that bit there with the brass in. So I've decided to leave these little legs on. So we've got these little pieces here. This is M12 and M11. So obviously they're handed. and that is basically going to go on there. It's not that clear in the instructions how they go, but it certainly looks like they go like that. So I'm going to grab a drop of the quick setting. Okay, just as a sort of tack to hold it in place. You can see that we've got a gap down here, got a sort of 2 or 3 mil gap, so probably something's going to go in there. There we go. So that's how that's going together. So we'll get some super glue in there and get that all sanded out nicely, get rid of the seams and everything. Just make sure it's glued in nice and strong. Get my tweezers. And give it a prod. And yeah, I want to say, as I always do with these sort of things, you don't have to do this. This is not a recommendation, it's nothing, it's just how I'm doing it purely. Only reason is I don't want to have to deal with that seam when I build the model, when the bottom is all painted and everything. So that's why I've done it this way. Okay, so that's gone in there. I'm going to do the same on this one. A little bit of quick setting just to sort of tack that in place. Push it into position, give it a good dose, make sure it's on there nice and solid. I don't think it's load bearing. Whoops, pushed it out of position there. There we go. Right. There we are. It's all gone together nicely. So I think what I'll actually do is just give that a quick going over with the ordinary extra thin, just in case it does have some sort of load bearing function. Okay, and then all that, we've checked it all, it's all nicely round and everything. Everything's good, so that's that. So we could just put those to one side now to dry and leave them for a couple of days, a few days, whatever, and then they'll be nice and hard and solid, ready for us to drill them down. So I've also measured the depth, and you don't have to do this. These, if you've cut it in the same place as me, that's 12 millimeters deep, and these legs here are 26 millimeters deep. So you know, to set your drill in your chuck so it doesn't come right out the other end. Right, so there we go. Right, let's get on with this cockpit. And we're back. So everything in the cockpit has had a coat of this wonderful stuff here, which is the VMS satin. The XXL is just the size. Available again from Brooks Models. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And then after I've had a little play with it, it's going to get a coat of flat, just to flatten it all off, so it has no reflectivity. That is all except the instrument panel and other little bits and pieces, just to sort of, if everything's just flat and dull, it sort of looks like one flat and dull sort of canvas. But if you leave a few bits with a bit of sheen on, for instance those little trim wheels, you know, they could have the wooden handles. I've been speaking to my friend about this morning, and some had the wooden handles, some just painted over them. So basically, if you want to do a worn model, you know, you can chip it and show the wood and everything. So going on from there, but what I was going to say was the handle, because they're constantly being rubbed, they would have a slight sheen to them. So even if I do dull them down, I'll hand paint some varnish on afterwards, maybe even a touch of gloss to polish them up. Same with the throttle levers and stuff like that. Anything that gets touched, you know yourself, if you go to touch anything matte, with your hands, especially if they're a bit oily, and it just makes everything have a sheen. So bear that in mind, especially when you're doing like World War II Jeeps and stuff, where people get in and out and their clothing, boots, whatever, kick, they rub the matte green, olive green paintwork, it will have a sheen to it. So there we go. So I've done a very bit of dry brushing now. What have I got here? I think this is the one I use. No, it's not. It's this one. Yeah, aluminium. Okay. Now then, there are different Mr. Hobbies. Now this one here is Mr. Colour Super Metallic. That is a different paint than Mr. Hobby Metal Colour. Mr. Metal Colour is a polishable paint, and this is by far, in my opinion, the best dry brushing aluminium there is out there. This brush has been loaded with this paint for probably a year, if not 8 months at least. I know it's more than 6 months. And as you can see, if I show you on here, I'll show you in an area where it doesn't matter on this back of this plate here. You can see we've got this sort of hatch here. Okay. Now this brush, I've put some of that paint on there, and I've absolutely rubbed it on a cloth to within an inch of its life, as I say, about 8 months ago at least, if not a year. Watch this. See that there? There you go. Look at that. And this is proper true dry brushing. So, you know, I've gone over the cockpit floor here, just gently rubbing it, and it will pick up basically all the details without making it all cool chipped and overdone. I've done the cockpit sides, and you can see it just picks up all the little edges and just highlights everything. I've done the same back here. I've done it on here, just gently flicking over it on all the angles, just like so. Okay, so there you go. Right, now then, rudder pedals would obviously be quite worn. Now this model, it's going to be historically inaccurate because I'll weather the other cockpit more than this one probably, and this was after, this was when the RAF had it. But not to worry. So the pedals are basically, when you first paint them, they are just grey, okay, like that. Now obviously just dry brushing them isn't enough, because all it does, it just picks up and highlights the edges. I don't know if you can see that there, it just highlights the edges. So I've got a silver pencil here, okay, and I'm going to just literally draw the silver pencil all over the pedal, just like that. And then quickly with the dry brush, you can see that what happens is it sort of blends it in because it's still soft. And you get this kind of metallic sheen to it without it being painted aluminium. Do you know what I mean? If you painted aluminium paint, it would be too much. So there you go. And we just check they both sort of match. Now on this breech cover, cannon breech cover, obviously this would get rubbed with his legs, trouser legs or whatever. So rather than have it all chipped and scratched, I'm just going to basically give it a bit of a sheen. Okay, so you can see on there we've got a bit of a sheen to it. And this is how I'm going about with this cockpit. I'm not going over the top, it's going to be all closed up anyway. You know, I may put some dirt pigment in here, some dust and dirt or whatever, but you know, I probably won't go too bad on the other one either. But because the Germans did look after their aircraft, remember, they didn't really get very beat up. And I'm not sure how long, it'd be interesting to see, how long did the Germans have it? This was early July 43, and then the Americans got hold of it in summer 43. So it'd be interesting to see when this one was actually built. Manufactured in March 43. Does it say when it first flew? So if it was manufactured in March, it probably did its first flight around May, June time. So it only had about a month with them, and then it was like a month with them, and then by April the following year it was over here. Now they used it as a hack, so it probably got a bit of abuse. Interesting to note as well, they had the dive line on the canopy, and then they took it off for the RAF. Also, somebody pointed out, I hadn't noticed, there's no cover on the RAF version, but there is on all the others. So there we go. Right, so yeah, the only one you're actually going to see the detail up in there is this one, the RAF version. So it probably wouldn't have been that beaten up anyway, but it would probably have plenty of dust and dirt in it from the Americans, but then the RAF would have cleaned it out. So I probably will put some dust and dirt pigments in there. We'll have a look at that. And then we can start to get the cockpit together, but I think you can see, I think you'll agree, it's starting to look really, really nice. This is, I think this is my favourite kit I've ever built. I'm sure it is. It's just, it's starting to look really, really nice. If Airfix did a Wildcat, that would be my favourite kit ever. Hint, hint, Airfix. I know you listen to these videos. I know at least one of you does anyway. So yeah, we need a Wildcat, please. Thank you. We want something with a green cockpit next. Right. So, and you can also see with this dry brushing, if you want to get an aluminium finish, this here is this satin black. Just keep going like that, and you end up with aluminium. Alright, if you want to get it off, a little bit of enamel thinners, and it comes off. So we can go along here and just, this edge here is going to get chipped up and stuff. I'm not going to do it now because I'll probably be dealing with a seam, but we'll deal with that after. I'm not exactly sure. Does this fit on top? No, it fits inside, so we'll have a seam to deal with here, so I'm not going to worry about weathering this now. I'll do that afterwards. Right, so I think what I want to do now is get some flat varnish on some bits, and then like on here I'll go over with this again to shine up the corners. Looks like it's been rubbed. And we'll go from there. But as I say, this stuff here, Mr. Metal Colour, is far superior to Mr. Super Metallic. This is the one that will stay wet on your brush. Okay, so bear that in mind. Right, let's get on with this. I also forgot to show you the instrument panel. I've now done the glazing, so as you can see, we've got the instrument panel is satin, but the actual glazing is gloss. This has got to be, I think, this is probably the best out of the box instrument panel I've ever seen. As I say, I gave it a dry brush to get rid of those heavy white lines around the dials, and that's worked really well. Luckily, all the decals have ended up in the right position. Sometimes they can move around. But as I say, what I'd like you to see do in future Airfix on the Wildcat that you're going to bring out next, yeah, make dials that sit inside the recesses rather than having a big thing that sits over the top. Or if you're going to do it this way, get rid of the white rim. It doesn't look good. So there we are. Look at that. It's a pretty impressive instrument panel for out of the box. It's bloody gorgeous. Okay, my next one obviously is going to use the air scale one, if I can wait that long. So I'm happy with those rudder pedals. They pretty much match, so they can go back in the cardboard stand. I'm going to get some flat varnish and stuff, as I say, and then I'll come back. See you in a bit. Right, I cannot believe what I've done here. And this is because I keep getting disturbed by people wanting to collect parcels and stuff and then coming back later and so what I did, I gave it a coat of satin varnish, and then I was going to give it a wash and everything, and I got disturbed and I came out and gave it a coat of flat varnish and then put the wash on and thought, what the hell are you doing? I've already told you countless occasions you don't put wash onto a flat varnish because you can't get it off because it goes in. So you can see on here, if you luckily it's up behind that panel, but if you look on there you can see where I've been frantically rubbing with a cotton bud. That goes behind the panel. It's just had another coat of flat varnish, so there we go. But you can see, like, around that bit there, you can see there's quite a lot of wash on that bit there where I've just touched it on. So what I'm going to do is go over with my dry brushing and just, there we go. And what I'm going to do now is get a cotton bud, just damp it. Where I've dry brushed that strap, I can wipe that away so only the buckles remain. Okay, so stupid boy, luckily this is all going to be closed up so it doesn't really matter, but you can see here that this is Absolutely amazing how good it works, how well it works. Let me just knock it back a bit with a cotton bud should you want to. So I'm going to let that all dry off. I'm going to take Dottie for a walk. What is it now? It's 3:20. So we'll take Dottie for a walk and then we'll come back and we will get the cockpit assembled. Shouldn't take very long, but you can see that when I actually what I am going to do, I put my thumb over there. I'm just going to dry brush those cables. You can see that when we pop this on here, the contrast between washed and unwashed. Go on, go in, there you go. So you can see on there the contrast you get, which is quite interesting. I don't know why that's all shiny there. It's because I've wiped it while the varnish is still wet. I cannot believe the mistakes I am making on this model. I'm going to have to paint that over again with a flat coat. Oh dear, dear, dear. What am I doing? Dry brushing something while the varnish is still wet. What am I? This is me. The trouble with talking. I'm having a really bad day, getting disturbed so much. Right. I'm going to have to give that another flat coat to hide that. You can see now where I've wiped it. Where it's glossy. So at least you're getting to see what you mustn't do. Hey. Okay, there's a lesson we can all learn from this. And I've learned the hard way, unfortunately. As I said, I've had a load of disturbances. Earlier on, when I was doing the varnish, knock at the door, postman's come to pick up a parcel, which is going back to Amazon, and it's a great big box of tools, which are absolute crap. So I decided to return them. And Royal Mail decided to send the postman that walks around with letters with a bag over his shoulder to pick up something that weighs about 5 or 6 kilos, and the box is, well, it's probably the size of an A2 cutting mat and about 8 inches thick. So yeah, that ain't going to work, is it? So he said, what I'll do, I'll come back with my trolley. They've got a trolley around the corner. I'll come back and see if it fits in there. I said, why haven't they sent some with the van? He said, I don't know, it's crazy. It's an absolute awful mess the Royal Mail is in, really bad. Anyway, so that was the first cock up. I came back, what should I do now? I'll do the wash. And I just put the matte varnish down. And I wasn't going to bother doing a wash, and I did a wash. Anyway, I've done some pigments in the floor to simulate some dirt in the floor, but as you can see, it's got a bit of a sheen to it. And you might be wondering, why has it got a bit of a sheen to it? And I used flat varnish. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. So, as I said before, I messed this up and that remained sticky, and I couldn't understand why it was all so sticky. And the reason was, when he came the second time, I had my thinners in my hand, and as I got up, I put it down on the side and went and answered the door. Came back upstairs. All right, what was I doing? I was going to give this another coat of flat. So I thought, where's my thinners gone? Ah, there it is. I reached over with all my thinners are over here on the right hand side, and I picked up the bottle of thinners, undid it, took some out, put it in the airbrush, mixed it with some of the VMS matte varnish, and hey presto, it's all sprayed. And I thought, that smells a bit funny. And then I noticed I picked up this. Look at the similarity. This is the airbrush thinners. This is clean slate. This is paint stripper. This is thinners. I've just sprayed my model in paint stripper. Now, that was what I'd done. So that was why it was so sticky, and when I wiped it with a cotton bud, it became more shiny. So I've gone over it with thinners, and it's still sticky. Luckily, this one's going to be closed up, as you know, so I might get away with it. Now, what I was intending to do was come back on camera now and glue it all together. Also, luckily, I haven't painted any of that with the paint stripper. The only thing I've painted with the paint stripper are these 3 parts here. Oh, I think I might have, yeah, I did this one as well. So all I've done is these 4 parts here. So hopefully they will dry. Now, as you can see on this one, it's got a bit of a sheen to it, and you've got a sheen round here. And I think that's the paint stripper starting to work, because the way this stuff works, you just put some in a pot, put your parts in and leave it, and the paint comes off and it's plastic friendly. So yeah, I've really cocked up here, but hopefully I can come around. But I'm really done with Royal Mail. What's really annoying is, you know, I have all my partwork stuff come. Now, the Hachette stuff comes from Royal Mail. The Agostini stuff comes from Yodel. And as you will know, if you get a parcel from Tiger Hobbies or whatever, you get a letter, an email of DPD, we will deliver your parcel tomorrow. And then the next morning you get, we will deliver your parcel between 11:48 and 12:18, and 12 o'clock he turns up, sort of thing. Royal Mail, we will collect between 7 AM and 4 PM. Oh, great, thanks very much. You know, and then they send a guy with a bloody bag on his shoulder. It's absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, it's kind of it's just been phone calls, disturbance after disturbance after disturbance, and what I'm gonna have to do is just start to like not do this if I know I got a bloody collection coming or something, because this is, you know, it's a critical point, it's a critical stage, and you can't mess up like this. So I'm afraid I'm gonna have to say goodbye and leave it there, because I want to get a video out to you today. What I'm hoping to do, yeah, that is still sticky. What I might try and do is an LP, LP30. LP30 is gloss. Flat clear. LP23 is that? LP23, yeah. LP23 is a lacquer based flat clear. That might bite in and eat into this stuff. But what I'm going to have to do is put this somewhere else. Can I put it in this? I just need to put it somewhere else so that I don't accidentally pick it up again, because you can see, you know, it's so easy to do. You know, at least when you've got your Mr. Colour, you know, you've got very definite different colour labels that you will see. VMS need to sort that out. They need to make this one red or something, or dark blue or something. Just, you can't have the same colour like that. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to put that over there out of the way. And my VMS thinners can go down there. Right. I think I might give this a go with the LP23 and see if that will bite into it, form a skin, and that'll be it. Wish me luck. Right, that has worked a treat. It has gone in. That was LP23. I think I'm going to carry on using LP23. I'm obviously too much of an idiot to use these fancy new products. But yeah, unfortunately I've got a couple of bits of fluff stuck in it from the cotton buds where I've been rubbing and that. But oh, what an idiot. What an absolute idiot. How many times have I said don't ever put a wash onto a matte varnish? How many times have I said it? I've said it in everything I've done that's British with Cockpit Green. Ugh, idiot. Anyway, let's just move forward. So we can start getting this thing glued together. So in no particular, we may as well get the instructions and have a look, haven't we? So they start with the seat. You start with the seat, you put this panel in, we've done all that. We've done that, and then we've got to put the rudder pedals in. So first to go in to the floor is the rudder pedals. Now I'm going to use liquid cement for this, and any touch up we have to do will be done. But you have to remember this is going to be a closed cockpit, so I'm not too fussy. But as I say, anything that needs to be touched in will be. So what I'm going to do is just grab my little sanding stick here and sand the paint away from the bottom of these lugs. And then we can grab a little knife and remove paint, wash, varnish, paint stripper, whatever is in there from there. And then what we can do, I think these will wedge in with the paint in there as well. A drop of extra thin. I'm going to use the ordinary. Oh, come on. I'm going to use the ordinary rather than the quick settings to get a nicer bond. And I'm always going to try and come in from an area that can't be seen. Okay, so we're going to have to hold that one in position, drop a cement in there. I'm not sure these rudder pedals will even be visible. I was going to put straps on them, but this is going to be out of the box. I mean, they're a long way apart, aren't they? Yeah, this is an out of the box build, so I'm not going to start adding things. The only thing I'll add is an antenna wire, and I may put the tension cable for the canopy when it's open. I may put the tension cable in all loose. A lot of people forget that. I got that from the Gary Boxall book. I really do wish these pedals had a better location. Here we go. I wish we'd had like a pin and a hole in the floor, because they're just sort of sitting on this little square slot. There we are. Alright, I'm going to put another little tiny drop of cement on them just to make sure. Okay, we don't really want to go knocking them. Then the next thing is to fit the control column. Following the instructions here. As you can see, we'll end up with a big pile of these clamps. So the control column's going, it only goes in one way. It's cleverly designed that way. So you've got a big pin and a small pin, big hole and small hole. Oh, I thought we'd be able to glue it from behind, but we can't. Okay, it's a nice snug fit. So what I'm going to do is put a drop of cement in that hole and a drop of cement in that hole. And the reason I'm putting in the holes is the walls of the pins are touching the sides of the holes, so that can go in like that. There we go. And again, I'm going to put a drop of cement in here because that will be hidden. There we go. So you can see with the extra thin, as long as you touch it, tap it, and you're quick, you don't get any glue marks or anything. It's absolutely fine. So you can see this is starting to look very nice. Coming over the page, we've got the where is it? There it is. We've got the cannon breech cover, so that's going to sit in between the rudder pedals. Okay, so that'll make the rudder pedals less vulnerable to knocks. So we've got 3 holes in there. We've got 3 okay, so what I'm going to do here, because it's all invisible, put some cement on those pins and get this in pronto. Pronto. Like I said, pronto. There we go. That was pronto-ish, wasn't it? In fact, what I could have done is just put it in and then put some cement in there. Okay, so that's gone in there. So it's all starting to come together now, and you can see my theory with the light amount of wear all coming together. Now what we could do is grab our dry brush and just put a bit more onto the outside there and on the front edge. There we go. So happy with that so far. Then, oh, I've missed putting the seat in. I didn't put this, we've missed putting the seat in. Not we, I. Okay, so the seat's going to go in like so. That can be glued from underneath. There we go, lovely fit. Just click in. There's our seat fitted. Okay, now we've got to fit those harnesses. Now the seat bottom harness is here, and that's just going to drop in like that. I think I'm going to put it in with some clear glue rather than gluing in with extra thin. Actually, let's give it a go. Let's make sure it's in the right position on the other side as well. Needs to go back a touch. In fact, what I think I'll do is put some pressure in the middle there. And then a decent sized drop on there. And hold that for a minute or so, let it go. And come over to this side. Do the same there. I'll put another drop on here. Really quick, just touch it in there and it can go around and do its thing, and it'll just dry invisible. And if you do end up with any blobs anywhere, you just go over the bit of flat varnish and it'll be fine. Okay, so there's our harness in there. Would you believe that's plastic? Right, so the next thing to do, we're starting on the fuselage now. So that's the cockpit floor out of the way. I'm just going to check those rudder pedals are still nice and straight. Yes, they are. Right, so we're starting on the cockpit now. So we've glued the side in already. Now we're going to put that trim wheel assembly in. As you can see, I've gloss coated the outside, and I've also put some wood brown on there, just so it kind of looks a bit, you know, a bit more realistic. So that's going to go into this side here. Okay. That's literally stuck in place. It's got so much bloody clear coat and paint stripper and all paint sorts and everything there. Okay, so we can plonk that in there just like so. So I'm going to hold the back one in and then move the front one down until that pin lines up. Just wondering, has that other pin gone in? Something's not right here. Yeah, both those pins have gone in, but the front is sprigging out, and that looks totally utterly unrealistic. So what I'm going to do is get a little, there's a small pair of self-closing tweezers. I think what I'll do is get a wooden clothes peg, one of my little modified ones. Okay, and I'm going to put this on here, put it down on the bench, and then put a drop of cement under there and a drop under there, so that it holds it in, because that needs to be up against the side. Right, so that's that. And then we've got a throttle lever and everything. I'm not doing that because I don't want to disturb that as it sits. So we're going over the page, and then we're fitting the cockpit into that side. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to look at this, going to look at the other side. Here we go. Right, so we are fitting, let's just slide that over there out the way while that dries. Okay, so we are fitting into this side. We've got the gauge is already in there. The oxygen pipe, which is here, is going to go in. So I know that fits because I've already fitted it. And I'm going to put a drop of cement on that pin. Okay, and just plonk that down like that onto that pin. And then at the top, again, I'm going to get one of my little wooden clothes pegs. The reason I'm using the wood is because it's hard, it doesn't have the rubber like the plastic ones do. If you use the rubber will squeeze down around the part and capillary the glue out. So I'm going to have to hold it and then So what I'm going to do here is go in from underneath with the cement, so it'll be less visible. There we go. Then we can hold that in place and then put the plug on. So that's our oxygen assembly in place. And then we've got to fit this panel here, and the peg's in the way, so I'm going to have to leave all this to dry. Okay, so moving along, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cover the reason I've left a lot of the stuff in the end of this video, so if you want to just fast forward to the end you can, and you'll hear why I left all that in case you're thinking, why have I just been forced to watch all this higgledy-piggledy. So I've got the the throttle quadrant parts in, that's all done, and I've got this panel, this electrical panel here in, so we're good to go. So following the instructions, what they want us to do is glue the cockpit floor into the port side. So having a look at this, I was wondering what this little notch is for. There's a little square cutout in the cockpit floor there, you can see, and it's basically that bit there that supports the chain goes in there. So what we need to do is put this cockpit floor in, and we've got some fantastic locations, but we need to make sure that that chain block goes into that slot, otherwise the floor won't go up properly. Alright, and you can tell when the floor is up properly because it butts up there on that bulkhead, and also you can see that we've got this step on here is going up against the step in the fuselage moulding. Okay, so that's that gone in lovely. Okay, worth remembering that there's no note in the instructions whatsoever about that piece being in there, or that piece going in. So I'm just going to put some liquid cement in there. I'm not going to flood it because I don't want it to get all glue marks all down the back of the bulkhead there. I'm not going to glue the front yet. Okay, so I just want the side to stay in place. It kind of locks in place without any glue, to be honest, but I just want to make sure it's going to stay there. Alright, so that's that. And then what they're asking us to do then is fit this upper shelf part here. So this is going to go in. So what I'm going to do is only glue the back of this so we don't get any glue marks up front. So we've got a step that's going to sit on there. We've got a little tab at the back. So that's going to go back into that corner and in like that. And there we go. So that's going into there. That's going into there. Okay, we're not worried about glue oozing out in this area because it's all going to be hidden behind that panel. And I'm not worried about glue in the front at the moment. We'll worry about that when we've got the fuselage together. But as you can see, it is a beautiful fit. I talked earlier about this gap down here, filling this gap. I don't need to on this one because it's going to be all closed up. So that's that done. As you can see, it's coming together really quickly. Now at this point they're asking us to drop the belts in. I think I'm going to leave that until I've got the other side on, because as you can see we've got some movement there. So there we go. I'm not sure if there's supposed to be a join there. If there isn't, it needs to be filled and painted, so bear that in mind when you do yours. If you do want to fill and paint that, probably best not apply that decal. Don't bother painting this shelf at all, and then you can fill it, deal with it, paint it in and go from there. But as you can see, it's quite a busy little cockpit when you look down in there. And then when we bring the other half together, hopefully it'll just go straight together like Lego. So what's happening here? Something's... Okay, so that doesn't want to go underneath there. There we go. So if we slot that underneath there first, here, it makes life a lot easier, and then the rest of it all just goes together like so. And the front will pull together, and then we can pull the cockpit up on the front like that. pull the top down. So that is absolutely bloody gorgeous. Look at that. So what I'm going to do here, because all of this has gone together, grab a couple of pegs. I'm going to peg the tail together like that, and then we need some tape. I'm going to use one of these Rebel hobby clamps on here just to hold this part of the fuselage together. Check everything is going to go together still yet, and then what I'm going to do is put some cement into that shelf, and that will just tack the fuselage together for us. Okay, and then that's going to pull in there, so we've got another Rebel hobby clamp. Oh, open you swine. These things can be so bloody unpredictable. Oh, jeez. Right. Just going to pull that fuselage together there and get some cement down there. We can see that everything's going to go together absolutely beautifully, just like it was meant to. So what I'm doing here, I'm ensuring that the cockpit is going into that step in there, down that side, and down that shelf is going in as well. What I'm going to do here is grab a paintbrush. We'll use this one. And I'm going to make sure we've got cement down the back there. Okay, don't put too much in here because it'll all ooze out and look horrible when you're in your cockpit. So there we go. So you can see our cockpit there with the belts in the seat and a bit of dirt in the bottom and all that good stuff. The rudder pedals, as I said, they can't be seen anyway really. So there we go. Right, so I'm going to let that dry, and then I think what I will do as well is just come back here and just put some cement into here. We'll put some on those two pins. It's all going to get hidden behind the fin anyway. What I'm going to do is put the peg there. Okay, and let that dry up. And I'm going to get some ordinary extra thin and just put it into that seam there on the front of the fin. And perhaps I'll put some down here as well. Remember, we've got the tail wheel innards there. I think I may as well put some down here as well. And then I can grab another peg and peg that together. And we'll put some in there as well. Perhaps move that peg down to there. Okay, and then we'll deal with those seams afterwards. Right, so I'm going to leave that to dry and I'm going to call it a day there. Now then, why did I leave in all that gibberish about being busy and distracted and all that? Basically because there's a lot of people watch these videos who are fairly new to the hobby, and I think it's worth leaving stuff like that because it's something, I mean, you all like to know about what knives to use, what paintbrushes to use and all that, but it's really, really good to know about some of the fundamentals about modelling itself. You know, if you've got busy kids running around and they're going to keep disturbing you every 2 minutes, you're wasting your time trying to do anything technical like this because you're going to keep getting lost, and you shouldn't be spraying all these paints with little ones in the room anyway. So yeah, it's one of those things that I just wanted to show you that it's part of life. It actually happens. And you know, I've been doing this for 56 years. I know by my crap standards you wouldn't believe that, but you know, even after 50, I'm 62 years old now, and you know, I had God knows how many phone calls. The postman came twice. I had another delivery, so that was three deliveries. Well, 3 knocks at the door, doorbells ringing, dog barking, you know, all that sort of stuff. and then the delivery, and then there was phone calls, and it just goes on and on and on. So I got disturbed and I made a mess. So basically, if you've got a nice quiet couple of hours and you know the family's gone out to a cinema or something, you've got a couple of hours, take that time to do your modelling and do some technical stuff. Don't just waste your time gluing wheels together and stuff. Use that time to do stuff that you really need to concentrate on. And if you do know that you've got a busy day, you've got friends coming at 2 and they're going to be gone by 1:30, and then you've got somebody else coming at 3 and your wife's having her hair done or whatever, don't do anything where you're going to keep getting disturbed. Just don't do it. It just shows what happens. You go wrong. So and that with the paint stripper was a very, very lucky escape. That could have meant starting the cockpit all over again, but I was lucky there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that clean slate in another drawer somewhere so I can't make that mistake again. That was a very near miss. Right, today is Friday, so this video is going to go out for you today, and hopefully get another one out for you tomorrow or maybe even later on tonight. So in the meantime, I'm going to go on and cement this fuselage together here. I may show you all this, but it's all fairly basic, just clamping everything together and gluing it. So we've got that nice little groove in there to put the cement in, which is cool. And then we'll put some Mr. Surface in there to sort of reduce its depth a little bit. I've gone a bit over the top with it. Right, I will see you all very soon for part 10. I've also got some more D'Agostini stuff on the way today, so there's going to be another disturbance with the door knock-in. I've got a big haul coming from Brooks Models. There's another disturbance with the door knock-in. And I've had a delivery from Hachette for the Lancaster, which we need to get on with, which I'll probably just bang out in one video because it's all just bits of the base. It's going to be quite boring to watch. I think it's going to be quite boring to do, actually, but we shall see. Right, so I'll see you all then. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.